Welcome to the Hero Maker podcast. I'm Andrea Schreeman, writer-director EP, living in LA.
I'm Jennifer Morrison, and I currently serve as the Commissioner of Public Safety for the state of Vermont.
We are here to seek out and tell the full story of our friends who were murdered in college, Rachel Raver and Warren Fulton III.
We really need to make sure that their deaths were not in vain and that every possible lesson and improvement for the system can be squeezed from the retelling of the circumstances that ultimately led to the identification of their killer.
Hi, I need to get a case file. I have the case number for a homicide, a report. Okay. I have the report number E9012. Okay, where do I go?
Why did you come to the sheriff?
That I was told to come here.
The sheriff?
Yeah.
Okay, what kind of report are you looking for?
It's a homicide report.
Just come here.
Hey, Roger.
Homicides are very,
I don't know if
very
that's
large.
Roger.
It is.
Oh, it is.
You didn't request it ahead of time.
Hi, how are you? We spoke to you on the phone a little while ago. So one of my friends and her brother were killed by the same person like 30 years ago. So I've been working on getting my files from the East Coast, and she's now working on getting her files from the West Coast, and we have her brother's birth and death certificate.
You're on the right track.
Okay.
Do you have a report number?
Yeah, we do.
That's what they gave me on the phone yesterday.
Someone on the phone told you that number?
Yes.
It happened in 1990?
I'm sorry?
1990, that's right.
1990?
Yeah.
Yes, and they said because it's a homicide case, they would still have the records.
Yeah, he just seems like, but he's like our only link to actually getting the information, so I feel like you just need to let him have all the power.
Hello, and welcome back to the Hero Maker podcast. As you can hear, this episode is going to be a little different. If you've been following along from the beginning, then you know that the person who killed our friends, Rachel Raver and Warren Fulton III, also killed at least 7 other identified people and 1 unidentified person. Many of those murders occurred in or near Riverside County, California. In episode 18, we spoke with Stacy Segrist's mother. Stacy was killed at the age of 19 in a double homicide with Denise Gianuzzi, who was 21 years old at the time. When I started researching all these connected cases in 2020, Tony's father, Gene Gianuzzi, was one of the first people I was able to track down on the West Coast. Gene was a sheriff in neighboring San Bernardino County who took an early retirement from law enforcement but stayed connected by opening a uniform store. Tony's dad passed away before we launched the Hero Maker podcast, but in one of my conversations with him, I met his wife, Karen, and his daughter, Denise. Denise and I sparked a connection. And over the last few years, she has shared with me how she was prevented by family and friends and threats of retribution from seeking answers to the questions that she had about her brother's death. When Denise told me that she felt ready to make a formal request for her brother's case file, I offered to join her on her trip to City Hall, which is just a few hours away from where I live. It was so nice to meet Denise in person after our years of staying connected. And as you'll hear, this episode takes place on location in an echoey government building and then in Denise's car with the air conditioning on full blast. So it's not the studio sound we usually use for the podcast. At the end, we'll wrap up with my co-host, Jennifer Morrison's reflections upon hearing the conversation that I had with Denise. Thank you so much, Denise, for allowing me to be with you for this part of your healing process. And we have to also thank you for allowing the Hero Maker audience in as well. Here is a recent conversation that I had with Denise Gianuzzi.
That's a beautiful necklace.
Thank you.
Where'd that one come from?
My husband.
That is the best answer. Did he just pick it, or did he know what you wanted?
I actually saw it at the jeweler, and then he went and got it. He got it in gold and silver, or white
Jeez.
gold, because I liked it that much.
It is really cool. Looks like a lotus flower.
What? Oh, his birthday, right? He said his birthday. Incident report. It's sad that I can't remember my birthday, because my dad and my brother's birthday
Same
is
birthday?
like
Oh, a couple days apart.
2 and 10.
I don't know what's involved. I have no idea how big it is and stuff. So I'm not making any promises. I'm starting the process.
Okay,
And that's all. It's a process.
okay, that's fine.
you.
So you should hear from someone in a week or two.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye. Yeah, I don't know about that guy. He's obviously, yeah, like you said, been there a long time.
Yeah.
And he's like over his job probably and wants it to retire.
Right. And he seemed like that guy, everything's a problem.
Yeah,
You know, so.
exactly.
No, I can't. Whatever it is, I can't do it. But that other guy.
But then he was like, you're not in the right place
Right.
at first. And I'm like,
Right. So I
dude,
could.
I talked to you yesterday. You know what I'm saying?
And
You hung up on me.
Cute. This is electric?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, that's awesome.
I put the seatbelt on because it jingles on
Okay. So, how long did it take you, like, from the moment that you decided you wanted to get these records, which could have been years ago, to you got the birth certificate and death certificate? How long was that?
Well, I didn't know I was going to need all that, so I was trying to get the records through an officer that I knew, and it just wasn't a priority for them. But it's been probably 5 years.
Even though that moment that we just did, which is like filling out a form and giving it to that guy, which seems super simple, you've got to feel some sense of accomplishment at this moment.
I do. Yeah, it's long overdue. I should have just did it myself a long time ago instead of waiting for other people, you know. But it's time now. So I'm good. Hopefully there's no snafus. Like he said, he can't guarantee it, you know.
Well, you've got the friend who's going to be working at that office or at that building.
Yes, he's actually in North Carolina right now with my husband. They have Army together this weekend, so
What does that mean? What are they doing?
it's top secret. I used to work over here. And then my husband's office was right over here. The FBI office is like right here on this street, on the right.
You're very comfortable with law enforcement.
Very. Because my dad was law enforcement and we owned a uniform store that sold to law enforcement. So I know a lot of officers. So, you know, when my brother was killed, a lot of people knew who he was, you know, like the officers knew because my dad. So
So you were saying, like, you thought it would be really cool. Well, first of all, just thank you. Thanks for letting me come be with you. And
I'm glad you came.
yeah.
I've been wanting to meet you.
Yeah, it is. It's good to finally meet you. I mean, we've been talking for like 2 years,
know.
right? Yeah.
We saw each other on FaceTime, but that was it. Or
Yeah.
was it FaceTime?
Zoom.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and then when I first met you, your dad was alive.
Well, you talked to my dad.
I did, but you were there.
I was.
So maybe just start by saying, like, why today is important. Why walking up to that window and requesting these documents is important for you personally.
I've been wanting the report for a while to find out what exactly happened so I could put the pieces together. Going there today I thought I was going to be more emotional or more nervous or whatever, but I actually wasn't, because this is something that I've wanted for a while. I think it's more exciting in a way, but not. It can't really be exciting, but I've been wanting it for so long that it's like more excitement than anger and hurt, I think. And I think because you went with me, it was easier too, knowing that I wasn't going by myself. But yeah, my sister-in-law did say she would go with me, but it was going to be a while before she could go because she does taxes. So she couldn't get away anytime soon. But yeah, thank you for driving out here.
Yeah.
That was far.
Yeah.
You get to see the Inland Empire.
Hey! Yeah, but this is, and it's even more meaningful because the way things went down for you when your brother died, and please, I would love to hear it in your own words, but you wanted answers right away. And I think you told me you were kind of like going out at night and looking for people to talk to and whatever.
I pretty much hit rock bottom at that time. I didn't believe that he was dead. For one, they wouldn't even let my dad go, what do you call it? Identify his body, because it was bad. So I just didn't believe it. For a long time I was in denial, I guess. And then once it kind of hit, I ended up doing drugs, and I was out up all night, and I was looking for answers, and people were telling me they knew stuff, but they wouldn't tell me, and so it just made it harder and harder. And then I just started noticing how horrible I was looking and feeling, and I couldn't do it anymore. So I just stopped. Like I did drugs maybe for, I don't know, like 2 or 3 months. And then it was speed, because that's what kept me up all night. And I was functioning on it because I went to work then every day. I had a job, So I ended up just doing my own research in the papers and online, and contacted Jackman?
Tom Jackman?
Yes, from the Washington Post. And so I started talking to him because he was the one with all the articles about all the stuff that was going on. And he wanted to interview me. And at that time, I couldn't do it. It was too soon after we found out who actually killed my brother. And I couldn't do it. So I don't even know if he's still there, but
Tom?
Yeah.
In fact, his interview will be a few before yours.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So he's there.
He's still at the Washington Post.
Wow.
Yeah, he's covering the January 6 trials right now.
Oh, okay. At that point, I had a hard time. It's like when we found out who killed him, it brought everything back to the day that we found out that he was killed. And so I had to start all over again, healing again.
But you did say, though, that there were people preventing you from getting answers back in the day.
So
like
one
people
of
in the
my
neighborhood.
brother's friends,
Yeah.
that was a really good friend that we grew up with, I'm sure he was involved with Prieto because he knew what a horrible person he was, and he knew that if I didn't stop, he was going to come after me. But there was a call made to my sister-in-law's grandparents, and I don't know how they got a hold of them, but they told her that if I didn't stop, that they were going to come after me. The grandparents called my dad and told him what happened, and so my dad went out with his friend looking for me with another cop and trying to find out where I was so that nothing would happen to me.
I feel like now that I've interviewed quite a few people, I feel like all of that concern was legit. Someone has said that they think the Farleys, that older couple that was killed by the same guy, that they died because they witnessed your brother's death.
Yeah, because they did say that his car was there. They found his car days later over where the Farleys were, in that area where they were killed. Well, the woman was killed there, and then the husband was taken somewhere else, I believe. And I think
they were
the same place where my brother was. I don't exactly know for sure. But then there was another person that I was talking to that owned a body shop in Chino, and he knew of the situation. I don't have any idea how he knew, because I didn't think that he was affiliated with any of the people that I grew up with or hung out with or anything, but he knew something because he told me I needed to stop, and he was protecting me and he couldn't tell me anything, and he ended up moving to like Nebraska or something, so I never was able to get a hold of him again. Now that time's passed, I don't know if anyone would talk still. Well, you reached out to Ben and he never got back to you, right?
I just tried to contact him through Facebook.
Yeah, and I saw him at a funeral probably 5 years ago, and I tried to talk to him, and he just was standoffish with me. And I literally grew up with him.
It could just be because you're so beautiful. It's intimidating.
No, that's not it. I think that he just doesn't want to answer the questions that I have.
You still have the questions.
I do. And he doesn't want to answer the questions. So
what are your questions?
Like, what do you know? What happened? Just tell me something.
Because your brother died in 90, right? So this is 33 years you've been living with these questions.
Yes. It seems weird. It seems like yesterday. It does. So, I've been in the dark for all these years, and I just need to know. I need closure. I need something.
If you or someone you know is connected either personally or as the result of violent crime to Alfredo Prieto, a convicted rapist and killer who lived in and around San Bernardino, California, Arlington, Virginia, and Jamaica, Queens, New York between the years of 1984 and 1990, we'd like to hear from you. Please email us at info@theheromakerpodcast.com.
I was talking to my friend yesterday. He was saying, are you looking for the full report with everything in it? And I said, yes, that's what I'm trying to get. And so I'm not sure what the difference is. Is it a report or is it the full case file that I'm going to get?
Well, it's a place to start.
True.
And you'll get what you get. And then if it's not enough, you'll ask for more. And if this is public information, if this is now public domain, and you're a family member and you have the right to it, then I would love to help you push to get whatever you can get.
He was saying that anybody could get that file, but when I called, they told me that I had to show proof. So, I don't know.
So what are you expecting to happen?
I just want to get closure. I want to be able to answer questions to my nephews if they ask me. I don't know if my nephews would want to read the file, but my one nephew, he's in jail. He blames my brother's death for his actions, like why he's been in and out of jail, why he's in a gang, why he's this, why he's that. He wants to blame it on the fact that he didn't know my brother, and that's hard for me to see because that's my nephew, that's my brother's son, that's his blood, you know? He called me, I moved to Colorado, and he called me and he wanted me to talk to him about it, and I can't tell him anything because I don't know. So it's that kind of stuff, you know, and I don't know if it'll help him, but I just hope that we can all get some kind of closure from it. But it's being in the dark that it's hard.
Yeah, Jennifer calls it a unique kind of torture when you just don't have answers.
That's exactly what it is. It's torture. And yes, it's unique. It's torture.
But you told me that many people have said that it's a very ugly, it's a very gruesome situation that you may be reading about.
So, my friend that I talked to yesterday that works for the sheriff's office, he said he remembers the case and he said it's horrific. That's what he said. It's horrific. I don't know if you're going to be able to handle it, but if that's what you need to get closure, then that's what you need to do. That's what he told me.
So your brother, you hadn't actually talked to him for like 6 months before he was killed, right?
Yeah, so him and his wife split up, and he was dating Stacy, who he was murdered with. We couldn't get a hold of him because back then there were no cell phones, right? So he was gone. He took off for like 6 months, and so we never even heard from him. And then that's when the officers came to our house and told. I wasn't living there. I was actually married at the time. So he was killed in May, and I had my daughter the August of '89. So I had my daughter, and then that whole time we didn't hear from him. And then my dad or my mom called my husband, and they told him to tell me because they didn't know what kind of state I was in at the time because I had my daughter, my baby. So that was hard because I had to hear it from him, and I just didn't believe it. That's when I went off the deep end. We ended up getting a divorce. After that, my relationships with men were bad.
You think that's where it started?
Yes, for sure. After that relationship failed, because of everything that was going on, I had a hard time because I couldn't really open up to people. Like, I didn't want to say how I was feeling and go through all that pain.
And your first husband was also a police officer, right?
No.
Oh, okay. But you're married to one now?
Yes.
Yeah. And is it easier to talk to your current husband about your feelings and your trauma and that kind of stuff?
It is because he worked those cases as an officer, and so he's seen a lot. He has PTSD, not from the military, from the police, because of those cases that he worked. So he can relate and understand, not that he went through it, like nobody in his family was murdered, but he had to deal with families of murders and all that, even children that were molested, and he has that experience. So yes, it was easier for me to talk to him and my previous boyfriend that I dated for 10 years. He was an officer, and he went through the same kind of things. You know, he had the same experience in law enforcement. I just couldn't talk to my family. So that's what made it hard, because the people that I wanted to talk to, I couldn't. And so I had to talk to people that I was in a relationship with, or I'm married to now. It helped a little bit. And they always wanted to try and get answers for me, but they just didn't. I don't know if...
Your spouses or your...
My ex-boyfriend, he had a lot of friends at the Riverside Sheriff's Office, but...
Oh, to help you get answers.
To get answers, yes.
Okay.
But it just never happened. And I don't know if he talked to my dad or what, but it just kind of stopped. And he had a relationship with my family too, so I don't know if my dad put a kibosh on it or what, but... I don't know. I think my dad's afraid that actually knowing what happened is going to be more traumatic for me. Which it could be for a while, but at least I'll know what happened and why. Maybe why. I don't know if I'll have the answer of why it happened.
So I talked to Stacy's mom. We interviewed her. Not too long ago.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Galen is her name.
Okay.
Yeah, and she shared, during those months, she got to know Tony.
Mm-hmm.
And she had warm feelings about him, you know, just that he was in her life. And she did say that their interaction with Prieto was around drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Some kind of selling of drugs, I think.
That's what I heard, too.
Yeah. But when drugs, like I asked her what kind of drugs she was talking about, and she said marijuana and speed.
I heard marijuana, but I don't know. I mean,
But like, if you think about it, marijuana, quote unquote, you know, cannabis is like legal today, right?
Exactly.
So it's not like it was,
what I heard,
coke or crack or whatever. You know?
So what I heard was that he was working for Prieto, selling drugs for him, and that he owed him like $200. And he killed him because he didn't pay him the $200, or he didn't have the money when he asked for it. And
That's what you heard?
That's what I heard.
Okay.
But I don't know. That actually, when we met with the detectives, they said the same thing. That it was like over some small amount of money.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, well, this guy was a total monster. You know, he killed people for way less than that. You know,
Exactly.
no reason whatsoever. And if I understand it all correctly, Stacy was also sexually assaulted as part
Yes.
of the whole event.
That's what I heard too. And when we were there, meeting with the detectives, where my brother was murdered was right down the street from their office, probably 3 minutes away, up on the hill. So when we were leaving, they took us and drove us by there and pointed out where it was, and they said we could go hike up there, and I was like, yeah,
No, thank you.
I'm good.
Yeah, it just makes, I don't know, just the feeling I get about that guy is like, what an animal. Like, he just had no regard for human life.
No. So I want to find out too, because there were 2 other guys, I think, with him that helped him or whatever. And I don't know that for sure, but that's something else, you know. And I heard they went to prison, and I don't know if they're out or what.
Well, they wouldn't have gone to prison for your brother's case because it was never tried, right?
No, because they ended up executing him in Virginia. But they were going to. So my friend that I spoke with, he said if they didn't end up giving him the death penalty, they were going to bring him back here, and they were going to
Try him
for the murders, all the murders in California.
So then there is a case file. There's like a big case file.
Exactly. And he told me that homicide cases don't get destroyed, because when I called, they said, oh, that was too long ago and they were going to purge the files. I'm like, what does that even mean? What do you mean you're going to purge the files? And she goes, oh, well, they get destroyed. I'm all, that's weird. Like, you just destroy files on murders? And she goes, oh, well, I didn't know it was a murder. I thought it was just somebody passed away or something. And I'm like, no, it was an actual serial killer. And she was like, oh, that's different.
I mean, if you get the whole big enchilada with all these related cases, I definitely want to.
And you know what I
read
forgot? My sister-in-law had asked me if I could ask them if they have his personal belongings, because she didn't get them. She didn't get his license, if there was anything there. I mean, Prieto could have destroyed everything, who knows? But they did tell her that there was some personal belongings, but she never got them. So I need to find out about that too.
So what's your plan for how to open the information that you get? What are you going to do? You going to do it by yourself?
I might see if my sister-in-law wants to get together and go and read it together, since she was with him kind of at the time. I know that her life has been affected by this, because when we talk, she gets emotional still. And so
It's still there.
yeah, so when we start talking about my brother, she'll say, oh, I don't want to talk about it. I can't talk about it, or whatever. Or she'll start bringing up memories when they were together. And even in front of her husband, she talks about it openly. So I don't know how it affects him, but he's part of our family now too. So we call him our brother-in-law, even though he's not really our brother-in-law, you know. And technically they were split up at the time, but we took her in as our family. She comes to all our family functions. He comes to Christmas. He comes to the holidays, you know. So they're our family because they're raised my nephews, you know. So they're even in my mom's will. And if something happens to her, because that's just how we look at them as family. Like, that's my sister. So I'm sure she hadn't mentioned when she gave me the birth certificate and death certificate that she wants me to keep her in the loop. I'm going to do that and see if she wants to go through it with me, and I'm sure we'll cry together, and, you know, but we got to do what we got to do.
Hopefully lay some things to rest.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it's really amazing. I just see this as like you taking control and just being like you said, it's time. And you also said that our conversations, you and me talking, this is before you married John. I remember you were engaged. somehow just even us talking was helpful in some way. Can you explain that?
Well, right off the bat, I felt a connection with you. I don't know what it was. Sorry. Maybe because you had friends that were killed by the same person, that I felt that connection to you. You're a warm person, and I just felt, that closeness to you, I guess. I don't know. Like we have some kind of connection somehow.
Yeah, I feel like it seems like you feel safe with me. And
I do. And my husband sees it too, because he's like, well, this might be too hard for you to deal with. And I said, but I feel comfortable talking to you, so he understands now. But at first he was like, why are you going through this, and I said, I need to. I have to go through this, And my biological mom, she does not talk about it at all. Like, she doesn't even really bring my brother up, but I know it's eating her up too, and I know she would want to know what's going on, and once I get the file, maybe she'll want to talk about it then, but she hasn't talked about it for at least 30 years. But there's a lot of hurt, anger. I know I'm supposed to be, I'm a Christian, I'm supposed to forgive, and I think that a lot of my hang up with my religion is because of that, and trying to forgive is, it's like the hardest thing, to try and forgive somebody that is so evil, so that I can be free of all of this, but I can't. It's hard for me. So I just need this,
Is there anything for you around not being able to, because he was your younger brother, right?
Older.
Oh, he was older than you.
He was born in 68 and I was born in 70.
Oh.
So, and we were close because he was held back, and so everyone thought we were twins because we were always like in the same grade, So, we pretty much looked alike, so everybody thought we were twins when we were growing up. So it was kind of cool, but he was fun. He was always smiling, and he had the best smile. He was just very carefree,
His whole life?
Pretty much. Ever since I could remember, he just was always happy-go-lucky.
Yeah, say more about Tony. Paint a picture of him for us.
He was just, like I said, he was just always happy. He had a lot of friends. Everyone gravitated to him. My husband that I'm with now was friends with him in grade school and junior high.
That's so cool.
So I think that when he reached out to me, a lot of the reason why I ended up dating my husband was because of that connection that my brother had with him. Everyone loved my brother that knew him. He was such a great guy and fun. He liked music. He played the guitar. I just remember him trying to play the guitar. He didn't ever have lessons, but he kind of self-taught, So, and then it was cool because my son took up guitar, and then my son self-taught. He took a few classes, but it just reminded me of my brother, even though my kids never met him. I don't know, it was weird. It was like maybe it was meant to be or something, that he just picked up the guitar one day, and played it. I don't know. It was really cool.
Well, you've been very generous with talking to me. I really appreciate it. And I hope you get everything you're looking for and more. It's some kind of sense of closure and clarity to be able to answer some questions when people ask, or to at least be able to go to your mom or your sister-in-law or your nephews and say, guess what, I found this thing out, and I think it matters, whatever that is.
Yeah, we'll see. I think a lot of my family and stuff just stopped talking about it, so nobody really talks about it anymore.
Is that weird? Or do you think that that's appropriate?
I think once we found out who murdered him, I think that brought them clarity more than for me, because I want more. Now that they know he was executed and he can no longer hurt anyone or whatever, it's like kind of like, okay, we can move on. Yes, we think about my brother. Yes, we talk about him. Yes, we have our memories, but we don't talk about the death. So I think that they think it's appropriate. But for me, I'm still wanting more.
Well, let's definitely keep me in the loop.
I will.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll contact me in the next week or so. If not, I'll get a hold of my friend that's going over there and he can check on it.
Yeah. And I want to support you also in getting as much as you can, because I don't want them to just give you a piece of paper. You know what I mean? Like, that would be so
Exactly.
weird. They just go, oh yeah, here's a little report.
I probably will reach out to him anyway and say, okay, he told me it was a report, not a case file.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Does that mean it's just like, it's vague?
Or it's just, yeah, like, this is what we came across.
The file?
No, you need the file. You need the investigation. You need as much information as possible. Yeah.
All these years, I have the vision of what happened, the horrific part of it, because I've created it in my mind because I don't know. I'm sure it is what I've built in my mind and more. But what I want the report, I want to know like what they know, but how it led up to that. Who knew things? Because I'm sure they're going to have that in the report.
Like people they interviewed.
The people that were telling me that they wouldn't talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they're going to be in the reports.
What would you say the impact of losing your brother at that young age has been on your life?
It's helped me in a way to be stronger, but it's also caused a lot of problems in my relationships. I became bitter, I think, but I'm also warm and friendly. I just have a low tolerance, I guess, for BS. I have a lot of friends that come to me for advice, not because of the situation, but because I have a lot of street smart. I have a lot of knowledge of things because I did a lot of research. They call me their therapist because they'll come to me with everything. There's stuff I didn't want to know, but I hear it and I give them advice, and like my cousin, for example, like I told you, she comes to me because I don't sugarcoat shit. Like, I tell it like it is, and even if she doesn't want to hear it or she doesn't like it, she knows that I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to, it helps her. Because I did go to therapy in my 30s for this situation, because my parents never got us into therapy when all this happened, which was very hard. Like, they should have 100%, we should have all went as a family to therapy, but they just didn't do it. So I did it on my own. And so I got to talk about it a lot, which helped a little bit, but it's still like the puzzle piece it's not complete, but it did help. And I have a therapist now, so we'll see. I'm sure once I read the file, then she'll probably have to be there for me.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming out again.
The Williamson County Cultural Arts Commission of Franklin, Tennessee wishes to thank our men and women in blue who help us deliver safe and fun family and community cultural events year-round, including one of the only authentic bluegrass festivals in the country. Bluegrass Along the Harpeth takes place every July and at the Williamson County Fair in August and at the annual Tennessee International Independent Film Festival. Check out our full calendar of events at wccac-tn.org.
So Jen would love to just get your stream of consciousness on what you learned and what this filled in for you, and how my time with Denise landed for you.
This is the first time that you were doing an episode without me, and it just had to be that way, of course. So all I knew going into listening to your recordings was what I have learned from our other guests in season 1. So I did not even know Denise's name or her brother's name or the woman that was with him. All I knew was what you told me to prep for the interview with Galen. And then, of course, I learned more about Stacy and Tony during that interview. And that really, other than other conversations we've had about the case where their names have come up, that was all I knew going in. So I was very interested from 2 fronts. The first one was oh, here we go, government bureaucracy, when I was listening to you guys talk to the guy about the files, right? But I also was like, I was talking while I was listening to the recordings. I was like, no, guys, it's not a report. This is going to be like boxes of stuff. They're not going to give it to you. They can't give it to you. What you're really going to end up wanting to get are any transcripts, any copies of any photos, police reports, police affidavits. Anyway, I was making a laundry list of the things that you guys should specifically ask for.
Oh, apparently we should have spoken with you first. I'm sorry.
Yes. I was like, no, you're using the wrong words. But of course, the guy was not actually like falling all over himself to help you. But it sounds like you got your request in and things are chugging along. So I was happy about that. I was a little scared about sometimes government bureaucracy can be overwhelming and soul crushing. And I was glad that it didn't seem to be soul crushing, maybe a little overwhelming. The other thing that I was like sort of cringing was I was waiting for the guy to say, okay, we'll get back to you with a cost estimate, because in a lot of places they charge for reproduction of records, whether that's copying CDs, making copies of photos, all kinds of stuff, particularly if it is a case in the archives. So a lot of times you'll have physical records from back in the day that have never been digitized. And I imagine that this case is in that format. And they will physically be in a box in a warehouse at a different location, somewhere far away. So frequently there's a cost of research time, reproduction time, etc. And I was waiting like to hear if that was coming, and I didn't hear it. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that there's not a big expense coming.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
And then I really enjoyed listening to you talk with Denise. There were a couple different times during your conversation where if you were talking to her about this, you would not know that more than 30 years have passed. She was right there describing her brother in a way that was so sweet and so familial, I mean, like you can't, it was just really lovely to hear her humanize him, because, really the only viewpoint I've had of him up to this point is that he was probably involved in drug trafficking, and that he and Stacy had been together a short time, and that there was some question of whether or not he abandoned his family or if they were having a divorce or whatever it was. So I was really happy to have him humanized too, because regardless of whether you're involved in illegal activity, you certainly don't deserve what they got.
Even that phrase, drug trafficking, I mean, to me, these were like kids. These were like 21-year-old kids, or I think she was like 19, right?
Yeah.
Who are just like making a little bit of money and in the neighborhood. So it's not like, like, I don't think it's this massive enterprise, or we don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
The details of that.
They might just be mules. They might be moving a little product.
But even those terms, and what I find too is working on this for a couple of years, even I'm getting desensitized, where in the beginning, I couldn't say the name of the killer. It was hard for me to approach this. So we all get desensitized. So the fact that, yes, that we were able to bring him to life, that she was able to paint a picture of Tony and the memory of Tony, her brother, was very, very sweet.
Yeah. Yes, it was very sweet. I found her boyfriends and now husband being police officers to be a curious intersection. I wondered how much of that was related to what happened to her brother. I don't know. Maybe
her dad was a cop. He was a sheriff.
Oh, right. No, I did know that. I did know that. He worked for a sheriff's department. Yep, I remember that.
And they owned the uniform store.
Yes, that was great.
So literally her whole life, she was surrounded by officers.
Yeah, that's right. The uniform store. That was new info for me too. So that was great. It was a different type of interview. It was much more of a conversation. It was almost like witnessing you guys becoming friends. So I felt a little bit like an interloper spying on your friendship as it blossomed. And I think she's brave to bring this all right back to the surface after all this time. And I got to believe that no matter how long it's been, that when you really stop and think about the case that it's just got to bring everything right to the forefront.
Well, it's an act of empowerment for her personally and self-care, because she was held back from pursuing information by neighborhood people, by gang members, by her family, by everybody. And to be an adult now, clear she's a grandma in her early 50s-ish.
Oh my.
And yay. And to be able to say, you know what, this is something I've always wanted for myself. And I'm in a place where I'm grounded enough to take this on no matter what anybody else says. And to even walk up to that window and to have him be like, well, I don't know. I don't think I can. And me just being like, dude, do not take no for an answer here. You have made it to this window.
Right.
And I just loved standing beside her. And of course, the big thing is going to be actually getting information and reading through it and coming face to face with this reality that we've talked about. Part of the difficulty for families is the nebulousness of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Not knowing, not having anything to hang your hat on or go, oh yeah, that's what happened.
Yep.
And it's dark, but at least now I know.
Right. Yeah, you could tell in your conversations with her that she had turned a corner from being told how to handle it and to not seek information and being sort of patronized to some degree to, I'm going to get this info. So it's good. She's in a place in her life where she's feeling a bit fierce and willing to get out there and go get the info. And I hope she has all the appropriate supports for when she does sit down to dive in, because we don't know what's in that report. It could be some tough stuff.
Yeah. I do want to thank Denise for trusting me.
Yeah.
And trusting us with her story. It's been great to get to know her and so many of the other people that we get to talk to through this journey.
Yeah, so true. We'll add Denise to the long list of very cool people we've connected with through the Hero Maker podcast.
Yeah. All right, Jen, any other final words about anything we can distill from this to make the world a better place, you think?
Well, one of the things I was hoping that we were going to find out is that, as we've talked about in other pieces of this case with other families, it would be really great if there was a victim advocate who could be driving this process for her so that she doesn't have to keep advocating for herself, right? So yes, it's been 3 decades since the crime, but she is still a survivor of a homicide victim. And it would be great if there was somebody to speak up, somebody who knows how to navigate the system. Maybe that's something we could pursue. A navigator, a system navigator.
This just in, Denise just texted me. I said, any updates? And she said, not yet. Going to check back again next week. And she's got some of her husband's cop friends working on it too.
Oh, good. That's what's going to happen. It's usually who knows someone. That's how you get it done.
Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer, for your wisdom and your observations. And thank you, Denise, for your time and your friendship and your courage.
Yeah. I'm sorry I didn't get to meet you, Denise, but I'm really happy that we were able to help you find the answers you need. So thanks for sharing that with me, Andrea. I enjoyed it a lot, and I hope our audience will enjoy it just as much.
All right.
Until I talk to you again, and for all of you out there listening, stay safe.
And take care of each other.
Thank you, Vicki Rose Sampson, our beloved sound mixer and editor. Thanks also to producer Michael Doherty, who distributes and markets the show. Thanks to graphic designer Jungleen Bay and sound designer Andy Bill. And thanks to Andrea Schreeman. Yep, that's me thanking myself in the third person, who books, produces, and directs the show. Please subscribe to the Hero Maker podcast wherever you listen and take a moment to rate us. It really helps the podcast grow. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Hero Maker Pod. If you'd like to collaborate or suggest a guest, please email us at media@theheromakerpodcast.com. The Hero Maker Podcast is a production of Prudent Pictures. Thank you so much for listening.